to give you background about myself and why I champion this particular cause. As you've been told, my name is Kenneth Bonner. I'm originally from Knoxville. I currently live in Johnson City. Like most young people that have lost hope and direction in life, at an early age, I did just that here in Knoxville. And in March 1983, I was sentenced to life plus 20 years in state penitentiary. I was released in November 2011. Now, in the earlier parts of the first 8 years of my incarceration, I was about as crazy as you know crazy to be. But at some point in 1988, I started educating myself and I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, so I educated myself. In 1991, I created an organization that became known as CAUSE, which was Creative Attitudes Undertaking Self-Education. The organization went on to evolve into REACH today, is still in place in the present system. But it received national recognition. Commissioner Campbell was in office then, and Commissioner Gale Ray thereafter. Both came to the president. What they wanted to know was, what was I doing that was attracting all these guys that were involved in gangs and all that, being able to get them to sit down in the room and really listen to self-improvement programs. Well, that's a whole different story. But for 21 years, the last 21 years of my imprisonment, that's what I was doing, was teaching a self-improvement program that received national recognition. So I decided when I got out of prison, I wanted to continue those efforts, and then evolved into what I have now to REACH, and it's restoring excellence and community harmony. Now, since I've been out, I've created I have a successful business. It's K&D Pressure Washing Company in Johnson City, Tennessee. I also serve as chairman of the local NAACP Criminal Justice Committee in Johnson City. And I go around and do a lot of public speaking about criminal justice issues. This particular issue here is very important to me. And it should be important to a lot of people in society. What's happening is we have a lot of people, especially African Americans, coming out of prisons that cannot find employment. Now, bear in mind, people with master's degrees today even competing for the McDonald's jobs. And so we got all these people that are sitting out on the edge of society, and you put a man in an unfamiliar circumstance, he will go back to doing what's familiar, especially if he doesn't have an educational foundation to stand in. And that's what's happening. A lot of these guys you see coming out of prison, everybody in prison got to get out of prison plan, but very few people have to stay out of prison plan. And where they will get frustrated, a lot of doors, it's happened to me. A lot of doors. There are jobs available. I don't want you to think there are not. But the average guy coming out of prison doesn't have transportation, doesn't have the support that I had. And the younger they are, the less persistent they are in pursuing those things. So eventually, especially in drug sales, what they do, they eventually will go back to selling drugs. They get addicted to the fast money. And then the criminal thinking sets in. Well, I got away with it today, I do it tomorrow, maybe I get away with it. Finally, the well falls in. So, especially in African American communities, what we got happening, we got a lot of people that stand out on the edge that cannot get in labor law. Now, 9 states have successfully passed what they call a ban in the box. That's what I'm trying to travel the state to build support for. And basically what it does is it removes the question about felony convictions off the job application. The employer does have a right, you have a right to know who you let in your house, so to speak. The employer does have a right to know about it, but they only ask it under this legislation. They only ask it during the interview process. If the employer does not ask it during that particular process, he cannot come back later and fire the individual because the background check comes back and reveals that. But it does, if not create an equal opportunity, at least creates a fair chance of getting in the door, getting a job as the next person. It puts you in a position of being able to say yourself on your qualifications, rather than somebody just sitting in the box about the felony conviction, check and throwing it away. Now, it's a larger issue in my heart to a larger community. Because if we go, as a society, if we're going to prove it effective in resolving crime and recidivism, then we got to start addressing all these guys. 42% of people going to prison are reoffending. They have been in prison in the system already and go back. So if we get effective in addressing that, then we can lower that recidivism rate and crime. Now these young guys standing there, they're not joking. Now there are some people, I don't give them $1 million, they still ain't gonna do the right thing. So I'm not trying to pass this being the only solution. That's the overall solution. But believe me, there are a lot of people in prison really struggling and striving to turn their life around. There are some good people. If you work from the idea that there are no bad people, but there are people that do bad things. You can understand what I'm saying with that. And a lot of guys get frustrated. I'm talking about how guys talk to me, come and talk to me all day. They call me KB, and a lot come talk to me about, in prison I was somebody. In prison I had a job I could go to. I'm just struggling. I'm just frustrated. And believe it or not, I'm not exaggerating. Some of them go back. Do some of the simplest little things just to go back. They can't make it out here. You know, Amy has something up here on the board. In prison, a lot of guys cannot process. They don't have the emotional maturity to process that aggression, that anger they feel. And then they come out here in society and can't make it in the job market. It's no exaggeration when they say 76% of the people in prison function illiterate. That is no exaggeration. And I'm not saying it to discredit anybody. It's a fact. Beyond writing the name on a piece of paper and being able to talk, it's nothing happening. I worked as a law clerk for 19 years. You'd be surprised the number of people come in the law library that signed their life away and didn't know they done. You know. Now, I strongly believe in accountability and responsibility for our actions. But I also strongly believe that if a man or a woman in prison or jail is really working to get their life together, come out, we as a society, I'll make sure they got at least an equal chance of making it. You know, and then if they screw up again, then let's get tough. But let's question ourselves and say, well, have we made every available resource to give this person a fair chance before they go first? It's tough, ladies and gentlemen. It is. It's tough. In the wintertime, I work at Wendy's. I'm working only part-time. I probably get 20 hours a week. By the time I pay my car insurance, pay my rent, and everything else, the only thing left in my pocket is rent. But I'm grateful to be able to work at Wendy's. And then you, on top of that, paying $45 a month parole fees. Now, I have no gripes or grievances against the system. My choices as a youth led me to that particular system. But again, now I got strong family support, friends and all, but what about the young guy that doesn't have it? And every time he go knock on the door, or the one that's in a situation that when they come in later on, it takes on the average about 90 days before a background check comes back. They will come and get you and pull you out of that job. Sorry, you gotta let you go. If you put it on the application before you even get the job, you're not even in it. If you tell a lie and don't put it on and 90 days later, you have to do it. Well, these guys want what y'all have. They want the security, they want a car, they want a home, they want clothes. Either way it goes, it's affecting you as a citizen. Because if they're not in the employment line, then they're going to be in the welfare line. It's an issue that we all have to be interested in at some point. We don't have to agree with the particular actions, but it's a very difficult situation to deal with. Because people coming out of prison will be frustrated. I had people I could turn to and go talk to when I got frustrated about a particular job. It's nothing more frustrating to get in the job, be happy with that job, feel like you've been a productive person, only for them to come and tell you, well, we just found out you got a felony conviction. Out the door you go. You know. And the younger they are, you got to remember, most of these guys in prison were not content with just sitting in a classroom. They didn't even finish high school. And therein was the key to how I was getting to those guys. I found things that was interesting to those guys. If they liked music, I found a way to use that music to get them. If they sold drugs, I would ask questions, for example, how many guys in the room sold drugs? Half the hands in the room would go. And then I asked, how many of y'all thought y'all were pretty good at selling drugs? The other half would go. And then I would start writing on the board, okay, let's look at what went into selling drugs. Conflict resolution, money management, time management. And you know what I ended up doing? Teaching them how to invest, how to read the dog market in the newspaper. We had an investment club going on. And these guys like, wow, KB, man, we can do this. There are brilliant people in prison, but when they come out here, the cycle starts all over again because they cannot get into the labor market. Now, there are nobody has found it even worth keeping statistics on. There are 9 states, like I said, that have successfully passed ban box legislation. But nobody has really went back and looked at whether the employment rate in those 9 states are higher for people with felony convictions. But the closest I've come is a place that done a real extensive study in 2010. It's called the Center for Economic and Policy Research in Washington, D.C. And it's pretty lengthy here, but they have found in those particular states, especially in Pennsylvania and one more, the employment rate within 6 months of them passing this legislation, the employment rate, people felt which went up, period. When we come out of prison, we feel like we're being productive, we're doing something. It's less that we have to worry about that person going back to criminal behavior. And I'm telling you, I met with the mayor in Johnson City, and one of the questions he asked me, Johnson City is kind of known as a retirement city, kind of laid back, quiet. One of the things he asked me, he said, Kenneth, do you think crime will increase here? And I just looked at him and I said, Mayor, you have to kind of think of it like people like me. We're looking for a new start. I come from Knoxville to Johnson City. My wife is from Johnson City. And now, every day, when I first went to Johnson City, and I first got out, you pick up a newspaper, the biggest news in the Johnson City press was about ETSU, some program ETSU. Now, every day is crime, violence, every day. And you drive around the city, you see it in Knoxville, guys just hanging out. And the first perception is you just think, well, then he got something more to do than just hang out on the street corner. Some of those guys, if you got 10 hanging out, maybe 6 of those guys, or 4, may have really, really been out there trying to find a job and could not find a job. He could find a job, but the job didn't want to find him because of his past history. And it's becoming a big thing. And while we're sleeping in it, it's just getting bigger, it's getting bigger, it's getting bigger. When I went to prison in Tennessee, Tennessee only had 7,000 prisoners. When I came out, it had 27,000. And you got to ask yourself, 90% of people in the state prison system right here in Tennessee got a release eligibility date. They will be coming back out. So the question becomes one of, what type of person do you want coming back to your community? One that's still thinking in that criminal mind, or one that has reformed his life and got himself together? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. That's why this got to, even if, you know, everybody, either you've been a victim of a crime or either you're paying out of your pocket for the criminal justice system. And either way it goes, you're touched by that system, period. It's a system you need to become educated about. We need to just quit pulling the lever, get tough and start doing a better job when people come out. We think we can in most cases, but like I said, there are some people that's not going to do right if you give them $1 million. In fact, for most people to come out, you give them all the clothes you want to, all the money and everything they need. If they still ain't changed their mind and their heart, you're just facilitating a faster way for them back to the criminal justice system. But the main thing over and over, when guys come back to prison, before I got out, I was hard on them. KB, man, it's hard out there. No, it ain't hard. All you gotta do is stay focused, how it goes. We talked about this all the time. Now that I'm out here, I understand it. I don't justify it, but I understand why some of those guys, because that's all they know. Is that the longer you stay in that system, it's like a process that desensitizes you. And the values are so abnormal, I couldn't just begin to help you understand what that environment is like. And guys buy into it. And so when they come out here, where, you know, we in prison, we're doing 20 years, 30 years, what have you, we don't have to pay bills. We have no responsibilities. And then we come out here, we got to pay rent, we got responsibilities and all that, but no job to do these things with. What do you think happens in most cases? Now, bear in mind, like I said, there are some people just come out with the intent to do wrong anyway. But on the other hand, there are a lot of people come out here really wanting to make it. And even what this affects is not just jobs, but housing, getting in school, a lot of things. And these guys on the edge of society. That's why you see violence increasing all around you with all these guys. It's the solution, or part of the solution, I should say. Like I said, this summer, I'm traveling the state. I'm trying to build support for Band the Box. It's not the big solution to crime and recidivism. But I made a promise. When I left prison, I was going to try to help even the starting line for some other people come out here. Because I know there are a lot of good people trying to get out here and live a productive life. And if you can't get in the door and get in the job is the first thing that a man wants to do, is be able to take care of himself and his family. Because if he can't do that, he don't feel like he even got any dignity about himself. So that's why I'm here today. Trying to build support, trying to help people become more aware of that. Not to excuse criminal behavior, not to talk about the prison system or have any personal grievances against the government, period. But to say that as a society, we really need to start looking at this particular issue. And if you just so happen to come in contact with people that may own business or something like that, ask them to take a chance. Some may make it, some may not make it. But automatically, you cannot always just judge. My criminal conviction is 30 years old. I'm still paying for it today. But I had enough determination and focus about myself to educate myself while I was in prison to get out here. I started my own business out of frustration and not being able to get a job. So it turned to be a blessing for me in a way. But what about the next 100 behind me? That's the thing we gotta think about, you know. So I thank y'all for allowing me to come here and share this with you.
Okay. There's one question. Are Tennessee's expungement laws used, and are they adequate?
I think they are, but I don't think a lot of people utilize them. It's just like voting, you can vote in Tennessee if your sentence has expired. In my case, I could never vote. I was serving a life sentence. Life sentence never, one of 9, 6, 11 states, a life sentence never expires in Tennessee. I'm on parole the rest of my life. Expungement is not readily available for a lot of people with felony convictions. It depends on the circumstances of the crime and stuff like that. A lot more, but my general answer would be, yes, it is available, but it's not used a lot.
And one more, what are your thoughts on prevention methods before people are sent to prison? I know you mentioned.
You know, I go to Science Hill High School in Johnson. Well, it's not Science Hill, it's Science Hill Alternative School. And these are people that's on track. It's already, part of the education system has already looked at these particular students and said, well, the future for them is either prison or trouble. My first day, I'll never forget, the first Thursday I was over, and as I was leaving the building, 2 teachers come running to me. Kenneth, we don't know what you said to it was Tyrone was his name, we don't know what you said. But this guy hasn't done anything since he's been here, and all of a sudden now we can't shut him up. And Tyrone's the first one. Every time I go back every Thursday, he's the first one. So as far as prevention is concerned, most of these guys really want to know that you care. And once you let them know you care, they come receptive to what you want to share with them. But, you know, in our society, personal opinion, but in our society, we get recognized for everything. I mean everybody, just growing up. First time you do something wrong, somebody recognizes you for that. Stop, that's bad. But like in prison, somebody get a GED, one person may come over and say, it was a good thing you done. 190 people come over and congratulate them on beating somebody up, though. Our society is like that in a way. So, as far as get involved, never tell a child, an angry person, they're wrong for feeling angry. Get them talking, get it out. You know, most of us in prison, we're in there for some form of regression. We don't know how to process our emotions when we got angry. So as far as, it's not in the spanking of the hand, so to speak, but it's in the embracing and loving the person even when they're wrong and explain to them why they're wrong.